With 8th grade graduation out of the way and high school in the near future, I was ready for the summer. The summer started out with a bang. Every year in June, Puerto Ricans celebrated their independence from Spain with the parade. The parade began in downtown Chicago and ended in Humboldt Park. However, that year, tragedy struck the celebration. Somehow, a couple of Puerto Rican men got into a confrontation with the police. Some say that a police officer was seen in Humboldt Park burning a Puerto Rican flag. Others say the problem stemmed from two Puerto Ricans who were members of a revolutionary group called the Armed Forces of National Liberation, commonly referred to as the FALN. The FALN wanted Puerto Rico to be an independent country, not a commonwealth of the United States. The real reason the confrontation started remains unclear, but it ended with the police officers shooting and killing two Puerto Ricans. As the news of the incident spread, the independence celebrations became hostile. The result was a riot that lasted a week. Puerto Ricans began fighting with police on California and Division Avenues, the corner of Humboldt Park. They overturned and burned police cars. They destroyed and looted businesses all down the division. Only the mobilization of the Illinois National Guard put an end to the rioting. From then on, there was this fear of the police in the community, coupled with the desire to create confrontations with them. The police were the enemy. I just hoped the damn incident didn't delay school from starting so I could get out of the house and away from Pedro. The riot was the first incident of Puerto Rican self-destruction I witnessed, although I didn't recognize it as such at the time. I was very ignorant and indifferent about the whole situation. I watched on television as people went on a path of destruction in the name of all Puerto Ricans. Maybe I was too young to acknowledge or receive whatever message the riot was supposed to be sending. What did destroying our own neighborhood prove? I just didn't get it. Pedro and my mom put the idea of moving back to Puerto Rico into action once again. My mom had 2 kids with them now, a boy and a girl. All 4 of them went to Puerto Rico for a week, so my mom could check out the house Pedro had built over there. While they were gone, Pedro's son Hector looked after us. He occupied the 3rd floor apartment above us with his girlfriend Missy. All of his junkie friends were at his place all the time. He had total control over these people, and he knew it. Hector would order a pizza and have a couple of junkies steal the other food from the car while the delivery person came up to the apartment. He once called the police and reported a robbery in a rear 3rd floor apartment of the building across the street from us. He then had a junkie slash their tires while they were gone. The junkies did just about anything to keep Hector happy. During the time my mom and Pedro were in Puerto Rico, it seemed like we lived alone. Only the fear of my mother's friends telling on us kept us from staying out all night. I found a way to stay out by climbing out the window at night. Between the building where we lived and the one next to it, there was a 2 or 3 foot gap on the side where my bedroom was. I would put one foot on one building and the other foot on the other, then ease my way down. The grip of the rubber on my gym shoes kept me from slipping and my hands kept me balanced. I got back up the same way. It was quite an acrobatic feat to get in and out, but I mastered it. Once I escaped, I'd go by Tule and hang out with the Lords. I'd get information about what was going on in the gang community by listening to the Lords. There was conversation about the Spanish Cobras being back. They were now hanging out on Division and Maplewood Avenue, close to the Latin Disciples. The Cobras had not forgotten their little disagreement with the Lords, and they wanted revenge. They began vandalizing up and down Western and Clemente. They had added the word insane to their name. They were now called the Insane Spanish Cobras. They wrote Spanish Lord Killers next to their name. They were definitely making their presence and their hostility toward the Spanish Lords known. The Spanish Lords began vandalizing in retaliation, writing anti-Cobra graffiti, and began mobilizing against them. Papo told me that the Lords had gone into Cobra territory on several occasions and shot at their members. He didn't say whether anybody had been killed or wounded. He just bragged about how the Lords were handling the Cobras. Little did he know that the worst was to come. We tried to get Flaco to do the same, but he could only get out through his 3rd floor bedroom window, so he stayed behind. Papo and I met up with one of the Lords, who I never met before. He introduced himself as Afro. He was tall, stocky, with a giant afro. He had just gotten out of juvenile detention. Afro was Rican's little brother. He was the same age as Papo, but much bigger. He already had a mustache and beard, facial hair we were only dreaming of having. There was a liquor store on the corner of Western and Hirsch. Afro knew the owner and could buy liquor there, even though he was underage. He walked to the back porch of a house located on the east side of Western. Snake, Sexpot, Afro's girlfriend Lisa, and her little sister Jenny waited for us there. Lisa and Jenny didn't live around the neighborhood. They had snuck out of their house so that Lisa could see Afro. Lisa and Jenny's uncle owned the building where we met. It was being remodeled, so it was empty and they had the keys to get in. We pitched in money to get some old style beer and Richard's wine so we could go up to the roof and get high. Snake had already announced that he had an ounce of weed. We gathered about $16 and gave it to Afro. Afro walked out of the back door that led to the alley and headed for the liquor store. A few seconds later, we heard someone shout out, "Lord love," and then we heard gunshots. We freaked out. Snake told us that Afro was probably shooting off the pistol he was carrying. "That brother is crazy," Snake said. "He just got out and is already acting a fool." Snake went out to the alley and let out a scream of horror. "Oh no, shit. No, Afro, no, no, no." We ran out into the alley and saw a body laying at the end of it. It was Afro. He was shot 3 or 4 times in the head and face from point blank range. Snake kneeled next to him and cradled his head crying, "Don't die, my brother. Please don't die." He reached in the front of Afro's pants and pulled out a gun. He gave it to Papo and told him to get rid of it. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what was happening. Lisa and Jenny were crying and screaming hysterically, and now so was Snake. Tears were rolling down my face, but it was caused more by fear than anything else. Papo pulled me with him as he took off with the gun. He told me to go home before the police came. We ran down the alley into a gangway. I noticed the anger on Papo's face. He kept looking up to the sky and saying, "Don't worry, my brother, revenge is a bitch." When we got on Western, I noticed some of Pedro's friends were standing in front of the bar next to where I lived. I told Papo there was no way I could go home at that moment.